As I've mentioned, I've plugged this now. We have 3 entrepreneurs joining us, working in diverse sectors for whom AI is an integral part of their organization and their tool set. We're going to be hearing from them now and learning how they've integrated this into their organizations. Let's please welcome Théo Alves Da Costa. Théo, are you there? Come on up. Théo is the head of AI for sustainability and climate at Ekimetrics. Welcome, Théo. Anne-Charlotte Gimenez, who is the co-founder of Tavera. Take a seat. Anne-Charlotte, welcome to ChangeNOW. This is your first time up here. Come on up. And then also we have Bourhan Yassin, the CEO at Rainforest Connection. Bourhan, welcome. Big ChangeNOW welcome for them. OK, let me just introduce these 3 entrepreneurs and what they're up to, because it's quite diverse and it helps set the stage for our conversation. Anne-Charlotte, Tavera creates open source software models and standards, and that's to help governments and nonprofits tackle global youth unemployment, critical topic. Théo Alves Da Costa, Ekimetrics. You're actually wearing 2 hats on the stage today. So we have you as Ekimetrics, which is a leader in data science and AI-powered solutions for sustainable business. And then you're also co-president of Data for Good, which you describe as a citizen accelerator. Okay. Bourhan, welcome. Bourhan, Rainforest Connection, you're using acoustics and AI to monitor biodiversity in rainforests, but then also detect illegal human behavior out there. Okay. So, quick question to you. How many of you are working in either an NGO or a startup, or an NGO startup? Okay. Keep your hand up if you are using AI in your work. Okay, we have a spattering, maybe probably like 20% of the audience here. This is fantastic because this is what we're going to be learning about today. How do we do this in the NGO space and in the startup space? So let's come to each of you and find out a little bit about your AI journey. Okay, when and why did you integrate AI into your toolbox? Bourhan, let's start off.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kristen. So essentially, Rainforest Connection has been using AI for the better part of a decade. We're certainly not new adopters of AI. We've been using machine learning and convolutional neural networks as a way to detect species in real time. We started out detecting sounds of chainsaws and trucks and gunshots, any indication that there's illegal activities that are going on. And we were able to use that to detect signs of illegal logging, which is a very big problem, as we know. And we can alert people on the ground almost immediately when a detection happens through the AI. Then along the whole time, we've been recording the entire soundscape of the forest along the way as we were trying to spot for illegal stuff. And we've actually been recording the entire soundscape, all the species that inhabit the forest. And we started using AI to detect species down to the individual type. So we're able to then shorten a process that would take months for a scientist down to seconds to process hundreds of thousands of recordings coming from the soundscape, coming from the forest itself. So for us, AI has been integral in our journey as a 10-plus-year-old NGO. And we're excited now to use different types of AI to integrate it into our workflow as well.
OK, so you're using machine learning and neural networks then to sort of increase and automate the accuracy and scale through that. OK. And Charlotte, let's hear how you're using AI.
Yes, so I represent Tavera here. Thanks so much for having me. So basically, for us, AI really, I must say, is not an end. It's a means. It's a means to interact and to empower governments, social businesses, and charities in the world to try and tackle the global youth unemployment challenge a bit better. We started with Tavera around 2 years ago. And 6 months ago, we hired our first AI engineers. That's to work on a product that is going to use large language models to empower young people to talk a bit better about the activities that they have at work, but also outside of work. And that includes work that they're doing as volunteers or micro-entrepreneurs, or even in the case of women, mainly, maybe like work that they do in the households or care work with their relatives. And then once this conversation with the tool will have gone, the tool is going to issue CVs and cover letters that will automatically talk to job ads that are active on platforms job tech platforms that we partner with Tabia. So yeah, that's the work we do.
Okay, so it's enabling people to actually use voice in order to create their CVs, their cover letters, and then also this matching that you mentioned here as well.
Exactly.
So we have an environmental startup, we have a social innovation startup. Théo, you're the tech representative as such on this panel, Ekimetrics. Was Ekimetrics born of AI? Because of your skills base, or did you have a different start to your journey, and when was AI integrated?
Personally, my AI journey is born out of passion first. So I'm like basically a geek. I've been coding every day for 20 years. So I was young when I started. And it met this mission of making something better after it like 10 years ago. And basically I have 3 goals when I use AI as part of a toolbox to make meaningful change. The first thing is using AI to collect more data. Actually, the data part is even more important most of the time, because you need data to prove things, to prove the impact that you're having. And for example, I've been working on a personal project with my NGO that is called Bechdel AI. Basically, we are extracting data from movies to measure the representation of women in cinema, so that we can actually give this data to people making policy changes.
Okay.
I have a second use of AI is basically to scale something, to automate something. For example, I've been working with the environmental activist Camille Etienne last week to measure and to analyze millions of documents so that we can get some information about the forever chemical problem that we have. So basically analyzing documents that a human cannot do at that scale. That's the second use I have. And the third use I have is to try to shift a narrative, to convey a message, to adapt and personalize something. And that's where the tool like ChatGPT are actually super useful. My little baby I'm working on at Ekimetrics is called Climate Q&A. That's basically a ChatGPT for the IPCC reports that is now being used by a lot of people, like journalists, scientists, just to get the information from the science reports, like the IPCC reports, but in a way that is useful for them. So for the journalists, is to fact-check things. For the scientists, is to find new information. So having something personalized, but still at a wide scale, like the IPCC reports, is the third way I'm using AI.
Okay, so that's very much rendering text more accessible and easy to be able to fact-check, or in fact even just understand in a more readable way. I think changing the narratives is something that we can often use these things for, but I'm also hearing from you then data collection. You know, often we think about using AI in order to parse and structure data or to cleanse data, but then data collection is something that can be very powerful for startups also. Now, of course, whenever AI is mentioned, there are concerns, there are risks. We're not going to go deep into that here, but given that we've got 3 very diverse startups working on it, or organizations working on this, let's actually just check in and scan through what are the concerns for you in your sector of activity. So, Anne-Charlotte, you're working with individuals' data. What is the major flag for you?
So for us, really, I think the main concerns relate to biases induced by AI and representation. That's true because we also work in like fragile settings. So we work with people in low and middle income countries and with marginalized groups like women, LGBT+. We work with people who don't really necessarily talk languages that are very well represented in the AI space for now. So we're trying to be very careful with all of this. And to do that, we think the best way to go is to collaborate with local organizations and with academics. We are based at the University of Oxford, so we do a lot of work with academics at Oxford, but also with other academic institutions around the world, including in South Africa a lot. That's where we started with our activities at Tabia. So yeah, collaboration with people who really know the communities for us is key. We're not going to be interacting with end users ever. We always trust our collaborators, our partners to do that.
Okay, so it's but the bias then that is the sort of the primary area of concern, because you're working with individuals' private data, and so collaborating with those people. Bourhan, you're not working with people's data, you're working with biodiversity data.
Yes.
So what is the area of concern for you, and what are you up to there?
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, animals don't have privacy.
Not yet.
Not yet, maybe soon. But yeah, so it's an interesting thing. There's a couple of things to mention here about potential AI privacy issues. One is to talk about the illegal logging part, right? As I mentioned earlier, that some of our work is focused on detecting illegal activity. And one of the most important things, as we have an AI model that's essentially doing this in real time, is obscuring the locations of where the devices are, because we don't want illegal loggers to end up actually discovering those devices and take them down. So we want to make sure that we're being pretty clever about what those AI detections look like. On the other part, with species, you have actually a lot of sought-after species, critically endangered species, for example, spider monkeys or even howler monkeys in Central and South America, where they are a trophy for poachers. So revealing locations of detections of these species becomes essentially a blueprint for poachers to go and find them. So if you go on our website, and we have public projects, we have hundreds of public projects, whenever an animal is classified as an endangered species by IUCN's red list, we automatically remove the location of it to make sure that the AI is not revealing too much information. So those are the couple of things that we sort of pay attention to when we're using AI.
So even if you're not managing individuals' private data, we need to be careful about location data, as you mentioned. Théo, is there anything that's a particular area of concern that you always check in on?
Yes, and I could talk about it for hours. By the way, I have a workshop tomorrow on that if you want to deep dive more on it. But if I have to mention one concern, as I'm working mostly on environmental topics, is all of the possible environmental impacts of AI. Most of the people think about energy consumption, which is one thing that is really important, especially when it comes to scaling. So the fact that we have an acceleration of AI being everywhere is actually what drives most of the consumption. But what's even more concerning for me is the way that AI is used in just products and tools and usages that are not making a change. For example, I don't know if you know that one of the most used tool on ChatGPT, on the GPT store, is a tool called Laundry Buddies to help people do their laundry. And that's not what I want for the world. Now the AI is in toothbrush that you actually have to manufacture. It's in sleeping nap so that you have a sleeping mat that adapts to your form. So there are so many products and new usages that we created just because you mentioned born of AI and not for a specific question and for a specific impact question.
Born for impact and born for social innovation, okay.
So that's what concerns me mostly.
Right, so just so that we know, so checking in on protecting private individuals' data, protecting location data, but then also ensuring that the use cases where we're applying AI are protecting also our society and our environments. Good points. Now, AI is expensive, okay? And the talent is in very, very high demand. So if you're out there, you're a startup, you're an NGO, how do you actually find these skills and these resources? Théo, I'm coming back to you and putting your data for good hat on now. How can the startups, the entrepreneurs, the small organizations out there actually have access to the skills and the resources?
There is a big question of network, because Data for Good is basically a citizen accelerator, as we are saying. So we have thousands of volunteers that are basically geeks like me that want to make their skills useful for something bigger, and to use them for other NGOs. And such similar organizations exist everywhere in every country, and there are just tons of people that would love to have just more meaning to what they do. What AI is born from a job that is called a data scientist. And 10 years ago, people were saying data scientist is the most sexiest job of the 21st century. And recently, people don't think that at that level, because they now understood that it put the emphasis on data science and AI, and not on why you're doing that. And so just finding people somewhere they exist that want to do something to help other NGO for impact, that's everywhere. And basically that's what we do at Data for Good. We are actually welcoming people to come see us, because that's actually how we actually have impact. We can only deliver some impact if we meet with people on the ground. One of the big questions is more AI for whom? And so if we have those people and if we meet with NGOs, that's actually how we have some meaningful projects as well.
Okay, so I think network definitely, but sort of backstage we were actually talking as well about sort of like the mindset change for the entrepreneurs and the people that maybe think that AI is inaccessible, and then giving them sort of like training and understanding some quite basic use cases in which they can help them get them started. No code, for example, I think is one way in which AI can help young entrepreneurs, startups, NGOs out there. Anne-Charlotte, how about yourself?
Yeah, I agree with Théo, really. Théo. I think one way to go is to start with no-code or low-tech MVPs, and then go to your founders. Another way to do it is to go with collaboration. And at Tabia, we are trying to grow an ever-growing community of tech people, but also researchers, civil society representatives, to work on a product and also contribute to a code base. By the way, if there are any coders in the audience who are interested in tackling the global unemployment challenge with us, please do get in touch.
Find Anne-Charlotte right after this panel.
Definitely. And one last thing I'd like to say is that shortage of talent can be an issue when it comes to access to tech and AI. And one way to go about it is to think about the tech talents, young tech talents that are based in low and middle income countries. They exist, they are available, they'd be more than happy to work with you on your projects. At Tabia, we hire a big team of them. We work remotely with them. They're mainly based in Ethiopia, Rwanda, India at the moment. And it's been fantastic working with them.
So spread your horizons, but I know that you're also part of a partnership. I mean, just earlier we heard about from Ritu about Unilever and how they're creating partnerships with startups, but also I know that what you're doing is there's a collaboration of you working on it. So that's another great way of being able to bring in talent and resources. Now, often when we're starting up a new organization focused on social innovation, focused on environmental impact, many people go down the NGO route. Okay, so I have a question for you, Bourhan, because I want to ask, how can NGOs be competitive and innovative as a startup? And in fact, how can using AI help you become robust as an organization? Because I think Rainforest Connection is a good example of this. Tell us how you're doing this.
Yeah, so I think for us, an NGO is just a tax status. There's really no difference between a for-profit and a non-profit organization when it comes to being competitive, when it comes to having product, when it comes to actually collecting revenue. There's almost no difference whatsoever. Now, of course, there's the issue of ownership where an NGO cannot be owned by the individuals, but there's many ways to tackle that as well. But I think the beauty and the benefits of an NGO is you're staying mission-driven. You're not going to get diluted at some point in the future by investors and so on. You're staying very mission-focused. You can attract a lot of talent that are very passionate about the mission itself, and if you're resource constraints, that would play a role as well. A lot of the talents at Rainforest Connection put the mission first before their salaries, which is not a common thing that you would find in the for-profit world, but certainly in the NGO world is very common. And I think that the ability to get funding from philanthropic avenues, the ability to get funding from big organizations that is able to bootstrap you for a moonshot type of project. I think there's a lot of benefits, and that's why we chose the route of an NGO, because it gives us those benefits, and you can attract the best talents of the world. And one more important thing that I'd like to mention on the whole AI front, it's never been as accessible as now how AI is. Back when we started, and still till this day, the way we use AI, you need very highly specialized skills. You have to be a biologist and a data scientist at the same time to tackle the problems that we solve with species detections. But now with Gen AI, you don't need to be a data scientist. You need to be a prompt engineer, more or less. Know what to tell the AI to create multiple solutions out of it. So I think it's a better time now than ever to be an NGO or to be a social enterprise that's focused on AI that it's ever been in the recent history. And that all surfaced in the last, I think, 18 months or so.
And what I love about when I actually looked into what Rainforest Connection is doing is that you now have effectively created this kind of cloud storage service for acoustics. So that's in part of your business model also.
Yeah, I mean, as an NGO, one of the ways that we're giving back to the world is all the learning. So we have a large science team. In the worlds of acoustics, it's a science team that rivals the likes of Cornell's ornithology lab. It's about 13 people, 13 ornithologists on staff. And these people are taking on direct projects. They're working with people on the ground and so on. But the one unique thing that we're doing is that we're actually rendering ourselves essentially useless every single time, because we're taking all these learnings and we're making them available for free on a platform that's called Arbimon, that is meant for biodiversity scientists and acoustic specialists to use. So the same techniques that we develop and we publish papers on are made available on a cloud AI-powered platform that any scientist that's starting can use a no-code approach to start into using the science of bioacoustics for biodiversity monitoring. And that's sort of what we do as our main mission.
And I think that's a great example of how, in fact, you've been able to use AI to create that sort of business value. Théo, how about yourself? Any examples of how AI can actually be used to create robust business for startups and for NGOs?
The good thing about AI is that it's actually quite kind of general. Like, it's algorithms, and we can use it for many different things. So at Ekimetrics, when we built this tool on the IPCC reports, actually we can extend it to many other topics. Mm-hmm. Because if you matter about what it can do, which is analyzing documents like quite dumbly actually, or collecting new data points, actually you can, if you are in the mindset of an entrepreneur, you can think of many things that you can use to solve those kinds of problems. So if we, for example, take, instead of the IPCC reports, we take regulations, or we take like the new greenwashing directive, for example, we can just use the same algorithm for something else, for another impactful use case. Mm-hmm. And because of that, it's actually easy to imagine and to scale to some other business ideas.
And I think this is what I've heard from both of you also, and also in our discussions, the ability of now our LLMs to actually create these new narratives or to help us interrogate data differently. You've got this sort of pocket climate scientist in here as such, and I know that Bourhan, you mentioned sort of like the ability to use LLMs to create a super scientist and to interrogate your data and think about what questions you need to be asking. Very quickly, we've got just under 3 minutes left. I throw this question open to you. What's next in your AI journeys? Anne-Charlotte.
Okay. So we're working on the first product that's using AI at the moment. We're supported by Google.org and Make Sense, who I think a lot of you might know. They're here at the summit at the moment.
And next in your journey with them?
Yeah, exactly.
What's coming next in your journey with them?
And so basically, we are going to release our first MVP for that product at the end of August. And we're hoping that from there, we'll get the resources necessary to then go on and further develop our tool. That's the only tool we think we'll need AI for at the moment, but we never know. We might hear from governments or civil society organizations who need other products that we will then endeavor to develop for them.
Okay, so we'll be keeping an eye out for your MVP in August. Bourhan, what's next in your AI journey?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. There's many things, but imagine a world, and I think, Kristen, you touched on it a little bit. Imagine a world where there is a super scientist, somebody that knows everything there is to know about a particular project on the ground. Whether, let's say, it's a restoration project, it's an organization that's trying to plant 1 million trees, and they need to know whether the tree species that they're building is going to bring biodiversity back or not. And you have this large language model that's been trained on all the data that came in, and all the acoustic data, all the data that came in from satellites. It knows all the publications that ever been published in the world about the work that you're doing, and it's able to give you very direct recommendations on what you need to do and exactly what you need to make happen. I think that's the best way to accelerate the world of conservation and to directly go after programs such as restoration programs or remapping protected areas. I think that's the next usage of AI, and hopefully we'll be part of that journey. We'll see.
Okay, we'll be watching you also, and that's a great horizon that you've put out there for us. Théo.
Very quickly, it's kind of the same thing, like what we've been doing with this tool, Climate Q&A, that, by the way, is free and open source, is making the past scientific assessments about climate and biodiversity available to everyone. Our goal now is to try to help in any way scientists produce the future assessments on the state of climate and nature. And so we're working closely with that, and we just released this new version that now has access to 250 million scientific papers to enrich it with the new scientific knowledge that has been produced since the past IPCC reports, so that it can help scientists just see through all of the papers and know what they can analyze from that, and save a lot of time for us, for humanity, have a better understanding of our situation.
Théo, thank you. Thank you to yourself, to Anne-Charlotte, and to Bourhan. I hope that's inspired many of you as to how you can use your AI, and through their examples, their journeys, give you some ideas. Your AI journey can continue tomorrow, because do you want to plug your workshop again, your Data for Good workshop? What time is that tomorrow?
At 6 tomorrow on the meetups part there.
Okay, so that's another way in which you can continue your journey. Thank you very much to the three of us. Stay right here. We're continuing our journey with our next speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you.